You are welcome to this lesson. Previous lesson is on forms of government 1, where we talked about monarchical system of government. Topic for today's lesson is forms of government 2. Under these forms, we shall be talking about colonialism, nationalism, and democracy. Lesson objectives: meaning and historical background of colonialism, meaning of nationalism, features and factors that led to the growth of nationalism in Nigeria, meaning of democracy and features of democracy. Learning tips: make sure you have your learning materials available for this lesson. Carefully watch and understand the video for this lesson. Attempt your quiz until you get the pass grade. Do not forget to do your assignments. Enjoy the video and good luck. Definition of terms: 1. Colonialism, 2. Nationalism, and 3. Democracy. We are going to begin the lesson with the above forms of government to widen your scope and knowledge. What is colonialism? Colonialism can be defined as an imposition of a more developed country or culture over a less developed one. Colonialism is also a political domination of a state by another powerful state, basically for economic reasons. Meaning of nationalism and democracy. Nationalism is defined as a certain form of unity which grows out of historical experience. It is the sense of oneness that emerged from social groups trying to control their destiny, environment, and interests. Democracy is defined as a form of government in which the people exercise their governing power either directly or through representatives periodically elected by them. Let's talk about the historical background of colonialism. Before the 1880s, Europe had gone ahead of the rest of the world in science and technology. So, Europe of 19th century became the workshop of the world with growing desire for raw materials for their environments. Britain, France, Germany, and Italy were all involved in this race. So, the competitive search for markets and source of raw materials that was growing in Europe only affected European attitude to Africa. By the late 19th century, the concern about securing raw material and markets had become a serious issue in most European countries. The scramble for Africa by these European countries led to the partition of Africa after the Berlin West African Conference of 1884 to 1885. Britain colonized Nigeria, Ghana, the Gambia, and Sierra Leone in West Africa. So, as from 1898, the British government sought to establish and maintain a colonial state in Nigeria. To achieve this, a number of measures were to be taken. For example, removal of all visible opposition to the imposition of colonial rule, expansion and consolidation of British authority over the territory later known as Nigeria, to gradually amalgamate the three different administrative units, namely the Lagos Colony, the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate. So, in May 1906, Lagos Colony and Southern Protectorate were joined together and had a different name, the Colony and Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. In the same vein, Lord Lugard in 1914 amalgamated Lagos Colony and Southern Protectorate with Northern Protectorate to form a single colony called the Protectorate of Nigeria. Britain, therefore, governed Nigeria by means of a system popularly referred to as the indirect rule. Britain claimed that the system involved not governing the people directly but through the local traditional chiefs. Having talked about the historical background of colonialism, let's move to nationalism. Nationalism is defined as a certain form of government which grows out of historical experience. It is the sense of oneness that emerged from social groups trying to control their destiny, environment, and interests. Now let's talk about the factors that led to the growth of nationalism in Nigeria. The first factor that led to the growth of nationalist movement in Nigeria is the influence of Christianity and establishment of schools by the Europeans in Nigeria. Second is the return of the ex-servicemen, those who fought during the First World War and the Second World War. Third is the activity of educated elites like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Herbert Macaulay, Obafemi Awolowo, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, to mention but few. The fourth is the introduction of elective principles in 1922. The fifth is the trade union. The sixth is the formation of political parties like the Nigerian Youth Movement, the NNDP, the NCNC. Seventh is the establishment of newspaper like the West African Pilots, the Lagos Daily newspaper. These newspapers played a very important role in nationalist movements in Nigeria. The eighth is the economic exploitation. Ninth is the effect of Western education after the Second World War. 10th is the student union. 11th is the youth movement. 12th is the National Congress of British West African. The 13th is the indirect rule. 14 is the urban centers. And 15 is the disposition of chiefs. All this led to the growth of nationalist movements in Nigeria. Reasons for the European colonization of West Africa. There are in search of raw materials for legitimate trade. The French wanted to expound their self-acclaimed rich culture to Africa, hence the policy of assimilation. They want to provide security for their traders, trade routes, and workers. One of the reasons was to put an end to the slave trade and slavery. There was an accumulation of surplus capital, and so the need came up to find outlets. There was growing need to search for a new material for home industry. We shall be talking about democracy. Democracy is defined as a form of government in which the people exercise their governing power either directly or through representatives, periodically elected by them. The origin of democracy is traceable to ancient Greek. The word demo in Greek means people and katrik means government. These two words, demo and katrik, metamorphosize into democracy. Abraham Lincoln defined democracy as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This definition could be broken down into three categories. Government of the people refers to government on behalf of the people. Government by the people refers to the representative government, and government for the people means that the government should be carried on by people of highly principle. Types of democracy. There are two types of democracy: the direct and indirect democracy. Direct democracy. It refers to an idea of democracy or government by which all citizens meet together to discuss issues affecting the community. This is possible in tribes and villages. The indirect democracy. This form of government becomes operational when citizens are qualified to choose their own representatives to rule them on their behalves. Let's talk about the pillars of democracy. Pillars of democracy are the factors that contribute to the smooth running of democracy. They are the people, the Democratic Institute, which includes the political party and INEC, the rule of law, transparent electoral processes, the majority rule, and the minority rights. Rise of democracy. One of the rise of democracy is the social, economic, and political condition, followed by the historical writings, bad governments, and limitations. All these are what gave rise to democracy. I hope you enjoy this lesson and video. Thank you for watching.